Ethan Malvo here. Welcome to Malvo Talks. This series of episodes is going to be based on the Transformers and Hasbro's creation of a billion dollar brand. Um, One of the things that, and yes, I did do this myself. One of the things I want to explore in this series of talks is the way in which the Transformers brand became what we knew it today, and that was a very fascinating story to research. Um, the company Hasbro it was one of the few things that it did not come up with by itself. It was something that they discovered at, of all things, a toy convention in Tokyo. But, excuse me, um, one of the things that we have to get rid of in terms of the preliminaries is just talking about the corporation of Hasbro itself, which had a very interesting origin story, certainly has built up in our pop culture, well, the well-known brands next to Mattel, and has stood the test of time. It is going to be 100 in 2023. And I'm just going to go quickly through, this is the subtitle here, but I'm just going to go quickly through the linear arc of the story. And it started with the Hassenfeld brothers in 1923. And it wasn't their intention to start a toy company. The opening of the company started in Providence, Rhode Island. And it was originally a textile company, of all things. And then it graduated, as the 20s wore on, to making pencils and pencil boxes. But it wasn't until 1935 that the company, this is after the Depression, but that the company started to look for new avenues outside of the pencil business. And in the midst of World War II, it became more focused on trying to get into the toy market. So 1923, so that's 20 years later. And when one of the brothers, his name was Hillel, died in 1943, his son Merrill became president, and with that they tried to look for an angling into the toy market. Well, it was 10 years later, and they found what we all know as Mr. Potato Head. So 1935, 1940, 43, 1953, I think that's what it was. No, 1952. Anyway, 1952, they invent or come up with Mr. Potato Head. Which is a perennial favorite in terms of toys. And, that's all that is just taking a potato and putting on different silly hats. People know that. Arms, whatever. But one of the things that they acquisition due to the popularity of that is well, first let me do this first, and that brought them into the 60s. That became a popular toy, and in 1963, now here is the 1963. Hold on here. I can write better than this. This easel is giving me a little problem here, but nevertheless, 1963, they come up with G.I. Joe. Now, it's not the G.I. Joe that my generation remembers. It's the original archetype was just almost along the line of a doll that boys could dress up with various military fatigues and guns and everything else like that. But it was not the fully developed version that we know, certainly in the 80s. But the original G.I. Joe, which was loosely based on the acronym for the military man who fights America's battles on various fields in the world. What do you call those things? Audiences in the world. But out of the success of that, in 1968, they purchased let's see, 68. They purchased Play School. And very interestingly, in terms of that label, that brand, which misspelled school, but nevertheless was synonymous with the kind of affection, certainly the kind of value that people place within a brand, and they purchased that. And they got some good things out of that, but in 68, they also decides, because it was still a private company, and the Hassenfeld, and particularly Merrill, let me do it this way, decided to rebrand the company as Hasbro. Let's see, Hasbro Ltd. and make the company public. So 68, the company goes public, and that would lead it to its next phase in terms of the toy manufacturing business, because it would turn out to be very rough years in the 70s. In, I think, 75, people lose interest in the G.I. Joe franchise, and the toy line is discontinued. Then, let's see here, there is, let me just make sure I did this right. It has to be, yeah. Merrill becomes the CEO in 1974. But previously, he was the president, and as this is the son of Hillel Hassenfeld. But anyway, Merrill becomes the CEO in 1974, and then Merrill's son, Stephen, becomes president in his place. So Merrill becomes the CEO, and Stephen, his son, becomes the president of the company. And there are a lot of the only way you can put it is there are just a lot of drawbacks that Hasbro Ltd suffers from in the lead up to the 80s, because I just want people to have this background so people will know why the Transformer brand was so important to Hasbro, but nevertheless, and what gave them the impetus to look for a new toy line. But anyway, there was just a lot of bad deals that they thought was going to bring a lot of revenue into the company that just went bad, went south. And one of them was the Peanuts comic strip. They got the rights to manufacture a toy line and products based along that. That didn't go anywhere, and that just caused a lot of problems financially for the group. And when I come back, I'm going to stop it right there. We're going to talk about the evolution of Steven Hassenfeld, because he is the brainchild behind that period that really produced and was looking for something like the Transformers.